Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and Joakim Noah, to the Get Buckets podcast, sponsored today by David's Sunflower Seed, the official sunflower seeds of Major League Baseball and the Get Buckets podcast.
Let's get back into our game.
We do need to get back into our game, but side note before we get started, you've seen the latest NBA advertisements, right?
I have the talking basketball. I think it's cute.
I'm not a fan.
You're an idiot.
I saw it once and I laughed, and then it's just not doing it for me anymore.
Have you seen there's an advertisement on ESPN.com, and it's like Kevin Garnett holding the ball, and the ball's got like a little dialogue box. Have you seen those?
Yes, I have.
You don't like those either?
I don't like the ball. The ball is killing me.
Okay, that's fair. I think it's a pretty cool ball. I think I'd be friends with it in real life.
I actually miss get back into our game.
Well, Harvey, that was the greatest commercial of our generation, so that would explain that.
That is a bold statement. Do you have anything to back that up?
My opinion.
Which is all that matters on this podcast, right?
Well, your opinion kind of matters, but it's kind of like 90-10, my opinion, your opinion. So
right. I mean, that's why we have the podcast, so you can voice your opinion in a public setting.
Absolutely, and you host it because I need someone to egg me on.
Right, exactly. And I think I bring out the worst in you.
You're the worst.
Hey, boys and girls, if you haven't liked the podcast on Facebook, do so. That is it.
You know, I just had a revelation. Maybe I should start a Twitter for the Get Buckets podcast and tweet all of my basketball tweets from it.
That's a great idea. Can I have admin on it?
Yeah, we can both tweet from it.
So you want to start a Get Buckets podcast Twitter?
Yeah.
How many people are going to follow that? Like
probably not many.
6?
But at least I'll get to voice my opinion.
So what would you use your normal Twitter for?
I don't know. I'm not going to tweet from it anymore, apparently.
Yeah, see, that's really all you tweet, though. So I figured,
Well, here's what'll happen. We'll have the Get Buckets podcast Twitter, which we can both tweet from.
Okay.
And then on my Twitter, I will still tweet about basketball. And the Get Buckets podcast Twitter will be for the tweets about basketball that I don't tweet because I feel like I'm tweeting too much for my own Twitter.
Okay. So kind of like more like a game-by-game thing?
It'll be even more like in-depth. Like there'll be preview tweets and lots more tweets during the games that I'm watching.
Okay. So it's going to be like more for the in-game stuff than just random basketball thought stuff. Right.
Yeah, it'll be a little more in-game stuff.
That's actually not a terrible idea.
It's probably one of the better ideas I've ever had, right behind the Snuggie.
I think we had a good idea last week and I already forgot it. Maybe it's 2 weeks ago. I felt like I just said that line to you.
I had a really good idea in the past 2 weeks. I don't remember what it was, though.
It was so good we forgot.
We're going to have to go back and listen to the other podcast just to remember what that idea was.
That sounds like a lot of work. Maybe someone will just text us.
Joey, what was my good idea?
We can always count on Joey. Joey's go-to.
He is.
He's clutch.
Hockey does still suck, Joey. However, I was watching SportsCenter, and I don't even know who scored the goal or what team the guy was on, but he hit a shot from an angle that looked impossible, and I was really impressed with it. So you're winning me over, hockey. Not really.
Man, maybe by the time you're 30, you'll watch a game.
Yeah, if you add up all the SportsCenter highlights of hockey I watch, by the time I'm 30, I might have gotten to the full 60 minutes.
Okay, let's talk NBA playoffs today, because that's all we're talking about.
Let's not. You see Harrison Barnes is staying at North Carolina?
That has to do with the NBA, so we can mention that. Yes, I did, and that's very scary now, that team they have.
They're going to be really good, depending on who Kentucky returns. Kentucky is going to be really good. Solinger's coming back, so Ohio State's going to be really good.
Texas is going to be really good.
Texas is going to be really good.
Baylor has potential to be good. I'll throw them in there.
We always have, well, not always. We had potential to be good last year, but hopefully this team will perform a little more.
What also should excite us is the 2012 NBA draft now, because that draft just got incredibly deep.
Yeah, I was thinking about entering my name in it personally. I'm not going to hire an agent. I'm just going to see what the scouts say, and I'll make my decision from there. But I'm thinking I'll be a top 15 pick.
In this year's draft, you easily could. You realize how
I would basically be a homeless man's. I'd be a homeless man's Jimmer Fredette in this NBA draft.
God, I'm so glad you brought him up, because I was going to say, you realize how high he's going to go based on how many people are dropping out of this?
I'm so excited. Except, I don't know. I kind of want him to go to I want him to go to the Thunder because I love the Thunder. But I think he'd be a good fit for the Jazz.
You've been saying that for a few months on this podcast.
I know. He's Mormon.
So
he went to college in Utah. He's white, and the fans there will love him. And I think, from what I've read, the Utah scouts think very highly of him. They think he could be a starting point guard one day.
I don't know about that. I really don't know, actually. I need to see his game progress. I need to see him in the role he's going to be in, not the Jimmer role that we're familiar with him throwing up 30 shots a game.
Absolutely. I would hope that he still gets to throw up 30 shots a game, though.
Oh, that'd be insane.
That'd be awesome.
That's must-watch. That's must-see TV.
That's like a dream come true.
In a Thunder uniform? How about that?
There would not be enough shots to go around.
That's true. Want to talk playoffs?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, it's been fun. We'll be back next week with, if Kyle doesn't want to talk playoffs, I don't know what we're going to talk about.
I was thinking we could talk about soccer.
Next week?
Yeah.
Is that really good timing?
It's always good timing to talk about the world's game.
Okay. Well,
all right, let's talk playoffs. Sorry, I don't know why you don't want to do it, but I'm here for you.
Okay. We'll start in the Eastern Conference. Is that okay with you?
Yes.
Okay. We'll start with the Heat and 76ers. Is that also okay with you?
It's really not okay with me because for some reason you put the Heat first because you like them and want to talk about them more than anyone else. Well, in the Western Conference, the podcast outline is in order of seeds. So let's talk about the Bulls-Pacers.
Do you want to know how I drew out the outline? I drew out the outline based on who plays what day. That's how I did it. And
awesome. Let's talk about the Bulls-Pacers.
Now we're going to talk about the Heat and 76ers, who the Heat are up 1-0 in their series.
Derrick Rose looked really good.
All you're doing is confusing people now.
All right, I apologize. Heat and 76ers. Do go
on. I think the Heat are taking it to another level, which it's almost, I don't want to say that they're kind of flying under the radar, but they're kind of flying under the radar into these playoffs. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that just because there's so many other storylines. I'm not sure anyone expected the Bulls to have the number 1 seed in the East. I'm not sure anyone expected the Spurs or the Lakers or even the Mavericks to kind of struggle the way they have been. So, yeah, I would say that for the first time all season, they're a little bit overshadowed.
And I think that they're going to – I mean, I don't think the 76ers have a chance. I'm actually kind of more interested to see who they play in the second round and then how everything progresses, because they can play elite defense like the Bulls, like the Celtics. It's really just how well on offense I think they play and whether they get too stagnant at times like we've always seen or whether they're flowing, because when everything's working for them, they're really good. And I didn't think they'd be, I guess, a title contender this year. And I think they easily could win a championship based on how well everyone's playing and the potential that they have to play well.
Yeah, I mean, they have the most talented team in the NBA, in my opinion. the Lakers are right up there with them, but those, in my opinion, are the two most talented teams in the NBA. And the Bulls are pretty high too, but they definitely have. If things click on the offensive end, I'm not sure who can beat them.
Prediction: how do you see this series finishing?
I think I told you I picked the Heat in 5, and if I didn't, that's what I meant to tell you. So Heat in 5.
I will agree with that. I think maybe the 76ers still won, but I also wouldn't be surprised if the Heat sweep this series.
I agree. I feel you.
Okay, now we're going to talk about what you wanted to talk about first. We'll talk about the Bulls and Pacers. So, Pacers blew game 1. That's the way I see it. A lot of people see it as the Bulls won game 1. I see if you have a 10-point lead with 2.5 minutes left, you don't lose that game, ever. That's a blow. That's not the Bulls are just amazing and won the game. You did some really bad stuff.
I agree.
Good. All right. What were your thoughts on Derrick Rose in game 1? Besides, we'll talk obviously more about it, but what were your initial thoughts on it?
I was watching Sports Nation while I was eating lunch today, and I had like a 3:45 lunch. I don't know why. But they asked who had the better point guard performance, and it was either Derrick Rose or Chris Paul. And
that's tough.
America picked Derrick Rose, and I understand that. He had a great stat line. I think he had, 39 points?
I really honestly don't know the points. He played really well.
I think he had 39 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists, which is an incredible game. I think Chris Paul had the better point guard game because he's looking at having 13 assists. But Derrick Rose is a freak, and it's going to be really tough to stop him. So teams are just going to have to focus on slowing him down a little bit because there's not anyone in the league that can truly guard him, I don't think.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also agree that that Chris Paul had the better performance based on simply what he has around him and how he dominated the Lakers, not single-handedly, but when the Hornets needed it the most, Chris Paul was the one to put the Lakers away. And this is really a tangent, and I'll save it for later. I'll save it for when we talk about the Lakers and Hornets, but no one can guard Derrick Rose. It's really just a joke to try and, I guess, ask someone to keep him out of the paint because he can get in there at will, and then he's doing backflips around people and bringing the crowd to their knees, and everyone's going absolutely nuts. And this is all kind of like centered around a hype that we've developed for Derrick Rose over the past few months is, oh, he's MVP, and now anything he does is like, oh, man, did you see that? He's become almost, I would say, like LeBron from a few years ago where you had to see it, and anything he did was just like gold and magic.
I'm going to go off on a tangent right now. You talked about Derrick Rose being built up as our MVP, and that kind of leads me to we're in the playoffs, and everyone focuses on every game. Every game's sold out, and you're going to start hearing the MVP chants while star players are at the free throw line. And that's one of my pet peeves is when the Hornets fans are going to chant MVP at Chris Paul. And Chris Paul is really good, but he's not really even in contention to have a chance to win the award. I would say that there's 3 fan bases that can chant MVP this playoffs, and that's the Magic. I think they can chant that at Dwight Howard. I think the Heat can chant it at LeBron James. And I think that the Bulls can chant it at Derrick Rose. And other than that, your MVP chants are unfounded.
I agree. But we know we're going to see MVP chants for Melo and Amari. You're going to see them for Rondo or one of those kids. You're going to see it for Tim Duncan. You're going to see it for Zach Randolph. You'll see it for Kobe. You'll see it for Dirk. You'll see it for LaMarcus Aldridge. You'll see it for Kevin Durant. And you'll probably not hear it at a Nuggets game.
Yeah, the Nuggets are one of the only teams you're really not going to hear it from. You might not hear it from the Grizzlies.
I'd say the Pacers are also on that list.
Uh-huh.
Because I can't think of one.
And the 76ers probably aren't on there.
Okay, yeah. I kind of skipped them because we had already passed them. But I agree with that. That's bothersome that everyone thinks they have an MVP. Maybe they're just like the MVP of your team. I mean, that's about all they are.
Yeah. But anyways, my tangent is over. We can talk about the Bulls and the Pacers some more.
Okay. But blowing game one on the road when you have a chance to steal one, because I mean, that's really, as the lower seeded team in any playoff series that's best of 7, you're trying to at least split the first 2 games so that you steal the home court. And so having that chance up 10 on the road with 2.5 to go and you blow that game, I don't know exactly how the Pacers are going to bounce back from that. And so I hope they bounce back well, and I hope they make a series of this, but I can also see it going just absolutely south for them.
Yeah, I'm in the boat that I see it going absolutely south for them, but I don't know. I don't know that they have the mental toughness to bounce back. I know Roy Hibbert thinks they will, but he might be just about it on that boat.
Who's your winner? Bulls and?
I'm going to go Bulls in 4, yeah.
Okay. I'm going to say the Pacers make a series of this and they drag it out to 6, but it's really a stretch. It really all hinges on tonight's game. If they go down 0-2, it's probably not good. But
if they go down 0-2, it's definitely not good. I think we can agree on that.
Maybe the wrong word choice. But another thing I do want to talk about is the quote from Pacers coach Frank Vogel after his team blew that game, where he's commenting on Derrick Rose. And we talked about the kind of hype that's surrounding Derrick Rose right now. And it's reached Frank Vogel. Let's put it that way. Here is his quote after his team blew that lead. Quote, on Derrick Rose, he's got Iverson's speed, Kidd's vision, Billups' shooting, and Jordan's athleticism. How are we supposed to guard that? I mean, first off, let's break that down just a little bit. Allen Iverson was quick, one of the fastest players we've ever seen. I would also argue Derrick Rose is quick. So I'll split that one. That's fine. Jason Kidd's vision. Jason Kidd has averaged like 9+ assists his entire career, and he's like 50. Jason Kidd has incredible vision. He's one of the greatest leaders we've had. That's why he's stuck around on so many teams and people want him on their teams, is because he's so good at his court vision. He brings so much to the game that he can't even dribble anymore. That's really all he does is pass and shoot threes. And then Chauncey Billups, who is known for his three-point shooting, there's just no chance that Derrick Rose is even close to that. And then Michael Jordan's athleticism, arguably one of the premier athletes we've seen in the last 30-something years. And so how do you feel about comparing Derrick Rose to some of those people?
Okay, I think that the Derrick Rose to Allen Iverson comparisons are okay. Quickness, no one can stay in front of AI. No one can stay in front of Derrick Rose. They both get into the lane at will. So, check. I'll give them that. Jason Kidd's vision. Jason Kidd is the most consistent point guard of the last 12 to 15 years of NBA basketball. He's been around, and he does everything you want a point guard to do. Derrick Rose, I don't think, will ever come close to averaging the number of assists that he averages per game. Chauncey Billups shot. Billups has not been shooting the ball as well since he got to New York, partially because of nagging injuries. But, I mean, he's Mr. Big Shot. Right. And every big shot he hits is in-your-face three.
Like the one he hit yesterday.
Absolutely. And Derrick Rose has not brought that into his game yet. Derrick Rose's shot is improving, but it's not where Chauncey Billups' shot is. On the athletic ability of Michael Jordan, first off, it's dangerous to compare anyone to the guy that revolutionized basketball. I'll actually agree with him on this one. Michael Jordan played in a different era of basketball. Uh, there weren't as many great athletes in the league when Michael Jordan played as there are today. Um, the majority of guys that play basketball today are incredible athletes. They play above the rim. They're fast. They block shots. They do a little bit of everything. And Derrick Rose is the premier athlete, along with LeBron James and Blake Griffin, are the best athletes in an NBA of elite athletes. And I think Jordan is as athletic as they are. So I agree with him on that one. But 2 of 4, still a shaky comparison he made.
Going a little more in depth, Jason Kidd has never been a scorer, and that's kind of what Derrick Rose is built around. Derrick Rose is more of your scoring point guard, which we're kind of seeing more of with Deron Williams and Russell Westbrook and people that are scoring, as opposed to like the Jason Kidd and maybe Rajon Rondo types. But Derrick Rose averages like 7 assists a game. Jason Kidd's rookie season, he averaged 8. And then he hasn't averaged less than that his entire career. He's been playing 16 years, and he's averaged 8+ assists every season. Most of the time, 9 or 10. And so to compare Derrick Rose's vision, which I've never thought is all that great, because vision is seeing the entire court and finding people that aren't open and making them open. And he's not Rondo. Rondo's vision is great. Now, Derrick Rose's vision for open driving lanes is pretty good, but that's not who he's comparing him to. He's comparing him to Jason Kidd, which implies passing vision and things like that. And also going to Chauncey Billups and comparing him to shooting. Chauncey Billups, his entire career has just been a great shooter. So that comparison is just a massive stretch. But I loved your comparison on the Jordan athleticism. I do think the game is just totally different than it was, and we do play more above the rim now. And so I thought that was just great on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, yeah, we're done talking about the Bulls and Pacers for a week since Frank Vogel really upset me with that quote. But let's go to another series, the Magic and Hawks, where Dwight Howard was just destroying. That's your MVP right there, right?
Something, yeah. I mean, he is my MVP, and he put up MVP numbers. His team is not what they need to be to compete at all.
Dwight Howard had 46 points, 19 rebounds, and his team found a way to lose. And it really wasn't even close. But with that said, do you think the Magic can turn it around?
I do. I think they can turn it around, and I think they can win this series. But looking beyond that, I think whoever the winner of this series is just going to get beat badly when they have to go play against, in all likelihood, the Bulls in the next series.
I would agree with that. The talk is, I don't usually like to do this, but the talk surrounding it is just kind of really building about Dwight Howard wanting to leave Orlando. And if I put up a performance like that and my team still lost the game, there wouldn't be a doubt in my mind that I was leaving. That's a wasted, that's an incredible, that's heroic to go 46-19 in a playoff game and then find your team lose. That's just, I can't really fathom how I would feel about that. But I can't imagine Dwight Howard felt too good.
And he shouldn't. He is wasting away in Orlando, especially when he puts up games like 46-19 where they lose and they're really not competitive, and he does everything he can. Orlando just hasn't done a very good job of really building around him. When J.J. Redick is one of your better players, then I don't think you're necessarily doing a great job as a franchise.
How do you see the series ending?
I think Orlando's going to win it. I'm going to say, I don't know what I said earlier. I think it's going to be Orlando in 7.
Yeah, I agree with that. But also, if the Hawks won, it wouldn't surprise me at all. I don't think either of these teams has a chance in the second round. But right now, whoever wins, great for them.
And it's a really interesting combination of teams because when I look at both of these teams, neither of them have very bright futures past this year. The Hawks sunk too much money into Joe Johnson, and now the Magic are worried about losing Dwight Howard. There's just neither of these teams look to be getting any better in the future than they are this year.
I agree with that 100%. Joe Johnson's contract looks awful. The farther we get into it, it looks just absolutely terrible. And this is only year 1.
It's gonna be a long 6 or 7 years for Hawks fans with that contract.
Okay. Last series in the East, the Celtics and Knicks, who it was actually a really good game. It had kind of a controversial ending, but Doc Rivers did his thing, and the Celtics won game 1. There's a few things I do want to talk about. One, the play calling in Doc Rivers, just the last, I would say, 30 seconds. Well, what did you think about that?
Well, when he ran the backdoor lob play to Garnett on the inbounds play, that was huge for the Celtics. It cut a 3-point lead to a 1-point lead without taking any time off the clock.
Right.
They went down and played solid defense, came back down court, called a timeout, and the inbounds play didn't work. I'm trying to remember who was inbounding it at the time.
They had...
Was it Rondo trying to inbound it the first time?
Yes, they had they tried to run the same play 3 different times. The first time, it's the first 2 times Rondo was inbounding. The first time he had to call timeout. Second time they had a kickball. Then after the third time they brought out Ray Allen and they put him in Rondo's spot, and they ran just a great little play to get Allen open. Which if you've watched a Celtics game, you knew kind of that was coming. But what's great about these plays and like the lob play is all these decoys and like the things you have to think about. So on this lob play, it's kind of hard for me to explain without, I guess, like a whiteboard. But you have Ray Allen setting the back pick on Kevin Garnett. What that does is Ray Allen's man can't help on Garnett because you don't want to leave the most dangerous three-point shooter that the game has seen. You don't want to leave him open for the 3. So you have to stick with Ray Allen, and that left Kevin Garnett wide open for a dunk. And so just the different options in defending these plays, I think, is what makes Doc Rivers just, let's say, he's one of the greatest X's and O's coaches that we've seen.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And it goes more than just these inbounds plays late in the game. Like, I watched the Celtics, and I get the feeling that they move the ball better than anyone in the NBA. Every guy on their team makes a pass that you think a lot of guys can't make. Kevin Garnett's a great low post passer. Ray Allen draws so much attention defensively that he creates openings. Paul Pierce knows when to get rid of the ball. Rajon Rondo sees angles that we don't see a lot of point guards that see. And it's just, they are a very pretty team to watch play basketball, the way they share.
Kind of looking, I guess, ahead, and this may not fit in this podcast, but I'm going to throw it in anyway, is that there's a lot of talk that Doc Rivers is going to, I guess, kind of retire and take some years off and go watch his sons play basketball. And if he does that, I think that the Celtics are in big trouble. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that. And I understand why he would do it more than just to spend time with his family. The Celtics are in big trouble regardless of what he decides to do. Just because they have 4 key players, and with the exception of Rondo, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen and Kevin Garnett are all past their prime, just clinging to being relevant almost. Ray Allen is going to be able to shoot the ball until he dies. But Kevin Garnett's knees aren't going to last him much longer. Paul Pierce's old man game is growing older and older every time we see him. And regardless of what Rivers decides to do at the end of this year or the end of the next year, these Celtics teams are only going to go as far as Allen and Pierce and Garnett can take them.
I agree with all that. They're just an aging team. And even their, I would say, what do you call it? Their bench players, their extra contracts, they tried to kind of add some life into the roster and kind of round it out with Shaq, who is like 50. Jermaine O'Neal feels like he's been in the league for 80 years. And so they have all these old guys on one team. It's like, I mean, there's a decent chance that next year you're going to watch a Celtics game and it's going to be the exact same thing as going down to the Y and watching the old guys run full.
Yeah, I mean, they're old, and this is kind of, I feel like this is almost their last hurrah.
Yeah.
They'll be around a little bit longer, but...
They'll be a playoff team because it's the East.
Right, but they're not going to be someone that you think is going to win an NBA championship. And I think this is the last year that they're relevant enough that people are like, they can still win this.
I agree with that 100%. With all that talked about, we didn't really talk about the Knicks. Do you think they can win a few in this series or maybe even upset the Celtics?
You know, I don't think they can upset the Celtics, especially with Chauncey hurt. I think their biggest issue, however, is Mike D'Antoni is so outmatched in Doc Rivers. It's very reminiscent of how outmatched he was when he was the Suns head coach and they would play Popovich and the Spurs. He just got absolutely annihilated in the closing minutes of that game last night. And if the Celtics keep it close and they have a shot to win it at the end, there's no reason to think they're going to lose a game.
Yeah, I'll take the Celtics in 6 games. I'll give the Knicks a few. I just don't see them winning it.
Yeah, I go Celtics in 5.
Okay. That was the East. Now we're going to move on to the West. Any filler? You have any filler before we get there?
No.
Okay. Let's jump right into it. Spurs and Grizzlies. Zach Randolph was just a man. And the Grizzlies took care of the Spurs in San Antonio in Game 1. From my point of view, I actually thought they had lost it. When Matt Bonner hit 2 threes, and that place is going nuts. And I just thought from there it was just downhill that the Grizzlies didn't have anyone to go to, and somehow Shane Battier comes back and just hits dagger 3 for the win. And that's as a Rockets fan, you got to enjoy that because you're seeing someone that used to be on your team have playoff success and against a team that you hate. So I was all for it. What'd you think?
I was thrilled to see Shane Battier hit that shot simply because he seems to be one of the good guys in the NBA. Mm-hmm. Never really is mouthed off. He's a glue guy. He works hard. He does everything right. He became a dad yesterday also. So
yeah, great day for him.
Congratulations to him on that in case he's listening. But the Spurs are in trouble, whether they make it out of this series or not. They're too old, in my opinion. Tim Duncan isn't what he used to be. Popovich is a great coach, but they have to have Ginobili healthy if they want to compete past this series. And Tony Parker didn't have a great game yesterday. I expect that to change. I think the Spurs are going to come back and win this series. But it wouldn't surprise me if the Grizzlies somehow pulled it off.
So you'll take the Spurs?
Yeah, I'm going to take the Spurs, and I'll go with 7.
Take them at 7? Okay, I'll take the Grizzlies in 7. They've already taken home court. I don't think that the Spurs have what it takes to stop Zach Randolph, who's just really playing out of his mind. He's playing so out of his mind that the Grizzlies decided to reward him with a lucrative contract. You saw that, right?
Yes, I did. Lucrative contracts are really tough because it's natural to get a huge deal and stop working as hard because you're secure. But I don't know. It's tough. But yes, he got a lucrative contract and good for him.
4 years, $70 million. That's way too much for him. The Grizzlies they were kind of on the up, and they had some choices to make about who they're going to bring back for next year and part of the building towards a champion. And I think that just kind of sunk them right there with $16 million a year going to Zach Randolph. I don't think your roster can round out the way you want it to.
But at least they gave him a 4-year deal and not what the Hawks did with 7 for Joe Johnson.
That is true, but isn't it the last 2 years are player optioned?
Yeah, but would he ever turn that down?
Right, exactly. He's not going to turn that down. So that doesn't give you any financial flexibility during the next 4 years, which is a really long stretch in basketball. It's definitely not as bad as what you're talking about with the Hawks, who are stuck for 6+ with Joe Johnson. But say this kind of gets ahead of ourselves, but like say the new collective bargaining agreement has some kind of hard salary cap or something, and now you got to fit your entire roster under $50 million with Zach Randolph taking up 16 of that, and Rudy Gay, who has also got a 7-year deal this last offseason. That's rough. That's going to be 30. Yeah, that's 30 mil plus in 2 players.
We'll see. I mean, they won their first playoff game yesterday in franchise history, so they're on a high right now, and the fans don't expect too much. But we'll see what ends up happening with that. I am happy to see them signing players to good deals, especially after they had Paul Gasol a few years ago and gave him to the Lakers for basically nothing. So at least it looks like they care about winning, even if they're not making the best decisions right now.
All right, Lakers and Hornets. I think if there was kind of one team we thought would just dominate their opponent, it was the Lakers. And that didn't exactly turn out the way we thought. Chris Paul played just amazing basketball. He took control of that game, and they went and stole one at Staples Center. Do you see this as a problem for the Lakers?
The more I think about it, the more I can see it becoming a problem for the Lakers. And I'll ask you this question, and we'll move from there. Who do the Lakers have that can even begin to slow down Chris Paul?
Luke Walton. Nobody.
I mean, Luke Walton is a great defender, but he's more of an inbounds passer situation type of guy in my mind. But they match up terribly with Chris Paul.
They can't guard him at all.
And that's going to be the problem. If Chris Paul has games like he had yesterday, 4 games this series, you've got to think that in those 4 games, the Hornets are at least going to be close at the end.
Yeah. Because he was nuts.
The Lakers have to they have to dominate the paint to beat the Hornets.
Which is why we all thought that it was going to be a quick series, because the Hornets don't have those guys to match up with. If you could throw Bynum, Gasol, and Odom, the Hornets really didn't have the guys to match up. And props to Aaron Gray, who looked like he broke his ankle. I never saw a diagnosis on that, but he played incredibly. He was effective on defense and offense. And so I think we got contributions from people that we didn't expect with the Hornets. And so I think that's how they pulled it out. Now, I don't think they can do that many more times, but Chris Paul could make me a believer, definitely.
If the Hornets can defend reasonably well against the Lakers' interior, there's no reason to think Chris Paul can't do what he did over and over again.
Yeah, he was just insane, and especially down the stretch, the ball was in his hands. He was taking just great shots and getting great matchups off pick and roll, making Pau Gasol look silly, and that kind of got me to thinking, because on the other end you had Kobe Bryant chunking up just terrible shots, and they're just bricks, and so I started thinking, well, maybe Chris Paul is a better closer than Kobe is, even though Kobe has that rep, because Kobe's shot selection is just terrible, especially down the stretch. And sometimes they go in and they look really cool, and he hits like a fadeaway on the baseline, and then he yells at the ref because he got fouled, of course. But Chris Paul is solid.
A stat from this game yesterday, the Hornets ran a pick and roll with Chris Paul as the primary ball handler 20 times. And they scored 29 points off of those 20 times that they ran that. And that came out to 1.445 points per possession when they ran the pick and roll. The Lakers on the year were giving up 0.775 points per pick and roll possession.
Wow. So
the Hornets were twice as productive as the Lakers have allowed other teams to be on a pick and roll this season. And I guess that's a good thing for Lakers fans to hear almost, because surely Phil Jackson, being the genius that he is, will figure out what to do on those pick and rolls to slow Chris Paul down and keep them from scoring that much on pick and rolls. But that I remembered reading that stat earlier today, and I mean, that's really the defining stat of the game, if you ask me.
Yeah, that was a great stat. Phil Jackson's biggest problem is there's not a guy on his roster that can slow Chris Paul down.
It's going to have to be some form of swarming team defense that only a guy like Phil Jackson or Tom Thibodeau or Greg Popovich could come up with.
Yeah, at any cost, you just want the ball out of Chris Paul's hands if you're the Lakers.
I mean, ideally, if it's me, what you want to do is make sure Chris Paul doesn't get a clean look at the basket, and make sure whoever sets the pick doesn't get a wide open roll to the basket, and then recover as fast as possible.
That's solid. How do you see the series finishing?
I am going to say Lakers in 6.
I wrote down Lakers in 5, but the more we talk about it, the more I think that these are problems the Lakers just aren't getting over anytime soon. I'll go Lakers in 6 with you. I don't think the Hornets are going to win the series. I just think that they're not talented enough at a lot of positions to win and beat the Lakers.
Especially with David West out. That is why most people thought the Lakers would just breeze through the Hornets, because the Hornets are missing their second best player.
Right.
And Chris Paul injured his knee, I guess, 2 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
And he hasn't necessarily been the same Chris Paul. He's still been really, really good, but he hasn't been the same Chris Paul. And yesterday, I feel like he was old Chris Paul again.
He was awesome. But I'll go Lakers in 6 with you to put a cap on it. All right, moving on to the Mavs and Blazers, who the Mavs were actually the team everyone thought would get upset, and they didn't, in game 1 at least. And it was kind of convincing, too. I didn't get to see a lot of this game, but I was kind of shocked that the Blazers didn't win game 1, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree with you. I kind of expected the Blazers to come out and win game 1. I'm not necessarily sure why, but they didn't, which was, I mean, Jason Kidd showed up.
Mm-hmm.
which that was a large part of it. Jason Kidd had, I think, 24 points.
It was something like triple what he normally has.
And I think Dirk ended up with 28-ish. And you're not beating the Mavericks when Jason Kidd scores that much.
No, because that means he's hitting wide open threes because he's not getting by you, I hope.
No, if he's getting, well, I mean, if Andre Miller's guarding him, then there's a chance. But yeah, I'm pulling up the box score right now, and to see Jason Kidd, he was 6 for 10 from 3.
That's impressive.
And he only had 4 assists, but when he scores 24 points, that's kind of what you're going to get. And then Dirk was 13 for 13 from the line. They're going to have to keep Dirk from going to the line 13 times if they want to beat the Mavs.
Yeah, I mean, I really can't. I wish I could talk more about this, but I didn't see just about any of it. And so I don't know what the Blazers are doing wrong, what they're doing right, what they're just really struggling with. I think their biggest problem right now is I thought they had a matchup for Dirk in LaMarcus Aldridge, but maybe they don't. That was my biggest reason in picking the Blazers was I thought LaMarcus matched up pretty well with Dirk and was long enough to get out to him and could run with him. And they're both agile bigs, and so I thought there was a push matchup. And so,
well, on top of that, I mean, I could see the Blazers throwing Gerald Wallace at Dirk a little bit. I mean, he's a pretty good defender, and I don't know. I didn't actually get to see any of this game. I was really busy, or I would have been watching. But Gerald Wallace had a terrible game from the field. He was 4 for 13 from the field and never got to the line. And they're going to need more production out of him than that. And Brandon Roy had 2 points. I mean, the Blazers are going to turn it around some.
Yeah, since we didn't watch it, let's just skip to the part where we pick it, so we can speculate more on it next week. Are you going to go Blazers?
I'm gonna go Blazers in 7, and I'm gonna give you a little reasoning. I think it's a really close matchup overall, and the Mavericks have 2 of my least favorite players in the NBA on their roster, in JJ Barea and Sean Marion. So I'm gonna go with the Blazers.
Oh man, I still don't know. You talked me into the Blazers earlier, and it's more because my hatred for the Mavs than anything. I don't even hate the Mavs. I just don't like them. Shoot. I'll take Mavs in 7. But I don't feel good about it. So take it for what it's worth.
It's not worth anything.
Thanks.
Just so you know.
I feel love. Thunder Nuggets, who... of all the teams remaining in the playoffs, which is 8 in the West.
Actually, okay, yeah, there we go.
The Thunder are hands down our favorite, right?
Absolutely, Thunder up.
Thunder up. Okay. Man, that was an exciting game last night.
That was one of the most fun games of basketball I've watched in a long time.
It really, the first half of that game was just back. It was what I want to show Joey to introduce him to basketball, because he's struggling with the concept, and so I should have showed him the first half. But he was probably watching hockey or something.
It's not too late.
Yeah, I got
that idiot. Is he even going to like this podcast?
He already has. He's like,
oh, I know. Like the specific podcast. Is he going to enjoy it?
Is he going to enjoy it?
All he did is talk about basketball. Yeah.
Maybe. I told him in advance, so hopefully he's preparing himself.
That's
but
good.
He should like it. He's got nothing better to do. So, but back to the game. Thunder looked great. I think the Nuggets are just a hard matchup for anybody because they're big up front and they don't have one guy you really want to key on to stop defensively. So it's more of a collective effort. And I think that's frustrating at times that you don't have a central focus of your defense.
I would agree with that. And I think the Nuggets were in a really good position to steal a game last night. And I'm thankful they didn't. From everything I'm hearing, the Nuggets wanted to run the play that Felton missed the 3 on last night for Ty Lawson, and it was well defended. And really, Felton didn't seem to play very well last night.
No.
He was 4 for 11 from the field, 12 points. But even before that, Lawson seemed to have the superior game out of the 2-point guards. And there were possessions even before the missed Felton 3 that just they didn't look right because Lawson wasn't touching the ball and he was having the better game. And I can say the same thing on the other end of the court when it comes to the Thunder because Russell Westbrook took most of the big touches down the stretch for the Thunder. Kevin Durant went off towards the end of the third quarter and he ended up with 41 points. And it didn't seem like he was getting the ball at the end of the game.
No, that was concerning. Westbrook had a great game, I'd say, for the first 40 minutes. And then there was 3 possessions there where it was just, there were critical possessions where Westbrook just seemed to be going way too fast and not thinking about it. And Durant didn't touch the ball in any of those possessions. And it only happened once. There was one thought in my mind during that time, and I was like, this is not good for the Thunder. Like, they're going to lose this one. But they pulled it out. They can learn from it. Hopefully Westbrook will let Durant touch the ball because he was just nasty. And other than that, I thought Westbrook played really well.
I would say that everything is golden in OKC right now because they won that game last night. Mm-hmm. And they're not going to start that slow next game. And they're going to have some of the nerves out of them. But had the Thunder lost that game, I think that they would have taken a lot of criticism for not getting the ball to Durant down the stretch.
Yeah, they would have got a lot of criticism about that. Town probably would be just panicking for really no reason. They'd be like, well, did the Kendrick Perkins trade, is that beneficial? I mean, they'd just probably overanalyze everything. It would change the whole mentality of the team, and it's really not what you want to give a Nuggets team who's really looking for anything to feast on. And so it was really good that they pulled it out. And I really don't see them having many problems with the Nuggets. The Nuggets are going to win there probably a few, but that's just because they grind it out and they're just a really tough team. And so I will take the Thunder in 6 games.
You know, the more I think about it, the more I think it's going to be Thunder in 6-2. I think I was thinking Thunder in 5 earlier, but when you go to Denver, you've got the different altitude, and the games are going to be similar to what it was last night. I can see the Nuggets pulling out 2 games in the series.
Yeah, and that wraps up our first round preview / talk about podcast.
And we're sorry that it is super long. So if you hear this and you literally made it all the way through the podcast, I'll buy you a candy bar the next time I see you.
Cool. Sweet. But I do think this is our most analytical podcast we've had.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely gave you more good information this podcast than we ever have.
Right. Tons of knowledge. So listen twice, download 3 times.
And pay attention to the Facebook page. We'll be giving you a Twitter name to follow for the podcast.
Yeah, pay attention to that. All 7 of you jump on that. Hopefully not at once. But
Joey, I will tweet once about hockey in a positive light.
Oh, I don't know how you're going to do that.
It's probably going to have to do with Barry Melrose.
I was about to say it might have to do with the Sports Center anchor. But yeah, you got anything else to add?
Luke Walton for president.
We're going to end on that. That's it. Get buckets.